Hey people of VC, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder with another competition entry, this time for smfcpthowdy and his 1800 subs redux competition. 1800 subs, so that pretty much means you probably know him already. And a redux competition because this is his second 1800 subs competition. Soon after the first one, John decided to pack it all in. And like a lot of people at the VC, the draw was too great. He's come back. He's come back, and he seems a lot more enthusiastic, and seems to be loving doing videos again, which is great to see. VC is a much better place with you back in it, John. Check out his channel. Massive Kiss fan. Does quite a few guitar videos as well. Does intros and when he plays on guitar. Popular tracks and things, and really good stuff. So if you like guitar playing and you like if you like a lot of sort of heavy metal and hard rock, then check out John's channel. So the competition was, as this is kind of a phoenix from the flames, John rising from the ashes and reclaiming his glory in the VC. The first question that John asked was, talk about a band and an album that is a great comeback album. Now I've gone for something maybe a little bit different. Obviously I mainly show a lot of heavy metal and hard rock, but I've gone for another one of my favourite bands, Manic Street Preachers, which I've shown a lot in competitions actually when I get the chance. One of my favourite bands, an alternative rock band. Been around since the late 80s, and even though they didn't really have a break between albums, I think there's one or two that I can show and explain why I consider them to be great comeback albums. So yeah, so the Manic Street Preachers were formed in the 80s, and I'm not sure you'll really know them because they're known really well in the UK and maybe bits around Europe, but I don't know how well they're known your side of the pond. So they released their first album in 1992, which was Generation Terrorists. Showing the CD because the record is a grail. It's only been repressed once, and it's very expensive to get hold of. I wish they would repress it again. But Manic Street Preachers are made up of James Dean Bradfield on vocals, and he's the main kind of music writer in the band. He's one of my favourite vocalists of any music genre. He's got a beautiful voice, fantastic stuff. Sean Moore on drums, Nicky Wyatt on bass, and Richie Edwards on rhythm guitar, I guess. Both Nicky Wyatt and Richie Edwards were mainly responsible for the lyric content of the songs. So Manic Street Preachers, they've got a big following, I'd say, but they're not really one born from commercial success. They've got more of a cult following that has stayed loyal to them. And if you go to their gigs now, there's lots of younger kids as well that seem to be into them as well. So they're still releasing material now, and as I say, they're one of my favourite bands. So in 1992, they released their first album, Generation Terrorists. In 1993, they followed up with Gold Against the Soul, again an album that has received maybe only one repress on vinyl. And in 1994, they released the Holy Bible. This was a much darker Manic Street Preachers, and a lot of the musical direction, the lyrics, were dictated by Richie Edwards at the time. And there's a lot of very sort of political songs, a lot of social angst, songs about social angst, and there's songs on here about anorexia and pain and sheer suffering and the intense humming of evil. And it's quite a dark side to it for sort of an alternative rock indie album, and that's sort of the direction they were going in. But it was a big success really. It was my favourite album from them at the time, and they were going to go on to big things. You kind of felt that they were going to be like the next big band. They didn't care what anyone thought about them. They did their own thing. But then on the 1st of February 1995, Richie Edwards went missing. There's been plenty of speculation and fan theories as to what happened to him. I'm not going to speculate on them in this video, But his car was found at a service station near the Severn Bridge. Now, the River Severn is a river that connects South Wales and England. Is a renowned place for suicides at the time. But no body was ever recovered, and Richie Edwards was never seen again. And it wasn't until 2008, 13 years later, that he was actually officially declared presumed dead. And yeah, so in 1995, the band, I mean, these guys were young. They must have been late teens, early 20s in around this time. They must have been, they were really tight. They always came across in interviews and things as being just about them, almost like brothers. And to lose a friend and a colleague at that young age must have been really, really traumatic. And they could have gone three ways, I guess. They could have decided just to pack it in, disband, and go their own ways and not record again. They could have replaced Richie to stay as a four-piece, or they could have continued on as a three-piece, and that's what they did. And another year later, in 1996, they released Everything Must Go, and this must have been really hard to actually release an album going from a four-piece with 3 albums behind you, with one of your main lyric writers suddenly not being there anymore. So the fact that they pulled this together and continued despite the emotional trauma, this is the reason why I chose this one as a comeback album. But then again, could this really be classed as a comeback album? But so by all accounts, Richie Edwards, although he was down as a guitarist, there were rumours that he couldn't really play the guitar and he mimed during live performances. But because he was such a key contributor to the songwriting process and the musical direction of the band, and this album still contains a lot of songs with his lyrics on, although they did change the musical direction slightly. They went from the very dark Holy Bible to more of a melodic alternate rock sound on here. But Richie was still, he was still part of this in that he contributed a lot. So a couple of years later, they released this album, which is This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours. So in 1988, and this album here only featured songs by with lyrics written by Nicky Wire. So it was the first album that actually released that didn't have any influences from Richie Edwards. So perhaps this should really be their comeback album, because it showed that they could continue without Richie and they could write great songs without him, and they would go on to have much more success with this album and beyond than they had with their previous ones. So there you go. I've got 2 albums from the same band that I think could be considered comebacks for different reasons. One, because they did it and they came back from losing a friend, and the other one because they completely did it without him and went on and went in a slightly different, more melodic rock direction, but all the same. Just as a side note to all this, so he was officially declared dead, as I said, in 2008, and in 2009 they released the album Journal for Plague Lovers, and this album exclusively features posthumous lyrics by Richie Edwards. So this was their kind of tribute to him after all was done and dusted and he was officially pronounced dead. So bit of a sad story with that one, but they are absolutely one of my favourite bands of all time, and I see them whenever I can when they come in concert, and always pick up their albums. In fact, I've got this one on order or vinyl at the moment. Second part, sorry, that one went a bit long, didn't it? Second part to second part of your question was name a cover song that is better than the original. So, okay, sorry, camera cut off there. Where was I? Yes, a cover version that is better than the original. Now, I recently did a video of my top 5 cover versions, so I'll put a link to that up there as well. And this was one of them. I can't remember what the top 5 was, because usually when I put a top 5 together, a week later they'll be in a different order. But this gives me a good opportunity to show this record. So my choice for better cover version than the original is Wasp, I Don't Need No Doctor. Now this is pretty special, because this week, in fact yesterday, this arrived as VCLT from the Vinyl Professor, James. Thank you very much for sending me this. Apparently his dad gave him, so his dad's actually probably got cooler taste than James. And he mentioned this on Facebook, and he asked me if I wanted it, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So this is a live version from Long Beach Arena. It's from 1987. It's got Widowmaker and Sex Drive on the B-side, but originally done by Ray Charles. Very, very different from the original. I did not know when I first heard this that it was a cover version. It just sounds like a Wasp song from that time, and when I did find out it was a cover version, I thought it was a cover version of Humble Pie, who did a version of this in 1971, but no, Ray Charles did it first in 1966. Absolute killer song, and my probably, well, it's one of my favourite cover versions, but certainly my favourite one that is totally different from the original, where the band makes it their own. Now, as I say, thank you very much, James, for this. James and I have become really good friends in and out of the VC, so much so that when he writes to me, he calls me Graham. You know, hi Graham, look, it's Wasp. What's that all about, James? Thinking of Graham when you're writing letters to me, I don't know. But so thank you very much for the VCLT for James. It gave me a perfect opportunity to show this record in John's competition, and also to give you a shout out as well and say thank you very much for sending that to me. Check out James's channel, but also obviously check out John, smfcpthowdy. This has been my entry to his 1800 subs competition. Hope you liked it. Give me a subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye.